I don't care if you're sick, if you don't attend the final exam you'll fail the subject. This story happened to me in my college days many years ago, and to this day, whenever I remember it, I let out a smile. I graduated in a traditional and very strict engineering school. At that time, there were not substitutive exams of any kind, no matter the reason. So, it wasn't uncommon for people to fail subjects because they couldn't attend the test day. In the end of my last year, I don't know how or why. Since I took the vaccine, I got chickenpox. Luckily for me I didn't suffer at all, maybe a day with mild fever and that's it. All the itching was completely mitigated with medicine. Although externally I looked really bad. More concerned about my appearance than anything, I called and asked if I could take my exam another day. The lady who answered it immediately denied my request, as expected. Then, being as patient and kind as possible, I tried to explain my situation, but she was very rude and cut my explanation short, not letting me even say what my illness was. As a last attempt I asked if at least I could take the exam in a separate classroom. Then she told me to wait on the line. I heard some people talking in the background and laughing. After she left me hanging for more than 10 minutes, she comes back just to say that there is no way. So, I thanked her and hung up. I don't really know what heck they expected, that I didn't come and failed my very last test. Hell no. So, I went. Looking absolutely hideous, not an inch two of my skin didn't have a mad hash, including my face. In the class, after the monitor arrives, he told me to remove my sunglasses and cap, as per regulations, and so I did, including my jacket and medical face mask. Oh boy, I'll never forget his facial expression. And then my fun begins. During the test I start to fake cough like a man about to die. Getting really good on my act, was really amusing seeing the monitor's reaction going from little apprehension to total panic, until he gave up and left, leaving the class unattended. Barely able to hold my bursting laugh at this point, my colleague who got what was going on, looked at me also holding his laugh and shaking his head. In the end I did pretty well on the exam and had my fun, including paying a visit to the lady who left me hanging. Later on, after graduation, I found out through a friend that I became sort of a famous joke, like the guy who came back from the dead to attend his exam. Now to the comments. I had something similar to this but with a job back when I was 18-19. I was working at an electronics store in the city center, and this place was what one would call a flagship store, so it was extremely busy all the time, all day long. Anyway, so I suffer from asthma, and every winter there's a high chance of me getting a bronchial infection. And one day I'm told to work on the shop floor by the door during last week of November, and I tell my manager I can't do that cause I'll get sick as I have my stuff. Obviously, he doesn't believe me, so I'm at the front of the store with doors open all day and finish my shift as per usual. Go off for the weekend, and sure as expected I get my thing going. Monday morning, I call in and explain I'm sick and that I have the infection. I've been to the doctor and been prescribed antibiotics. My manager, of course the total wanker, doesn't believe me and says that I have to come in now. So, I say no problem, I'll come in. Now let me tell you, this kind of illness is no joke. You basically can't breathe, you're sweating constantly and coughing non-stop. It makes it look like you're suffering from the Black Plague. So, I get to the store, go to the manager and say, look, I'm really sick. Are you sure you want me to do this? He still thinks I'm faking or exaggerating. So, I go out on my uniform, head downstairs to the tech department. And sure enough, in a few minutes I get a customer approach me to ask about setting up a baby camera above her crib that's wireless. As I started to reply to her, I started to cough uncontrollable, and you know how it is with phlegm and stuff, I had to get rid of everything into a roll of tissues. She immediately calls the manager and asks what the duck I'm doing at work in this state. She's a doctor and tells me to leave work immediately in front of my manager. He of course has the reddest face you can imagine and agreed. Next day I went to my doctor and was told because of further stressing my system, I need to be off work for at least 6 weeks. And that's how I got a paid work vacation through that entire Christmas period. Felt bad for the co-workers, but employers and people in charge need to not duck around when people tell them they are ill. It's fucking reckless and dangerous, to be honest. This deserves its own post, to be honest. Thanks for sharing. I enjoyed it, though I'm sure you didn't at the time. Well, the first couple of weeks were rough, not going to lie, but once I got over the worst of it, I was just a young person getting paid to binge watch DVD box sets. Yeah, it was that long ago. Back when I was studying for my preschool teacher's license, I was doing my internship at one of the city daycares. We had the kids out walking one day and I took a nosedive off a curb. Tore my hand up pretty good on the road to the point I had blood running down my arm. Try hiding blood from 25-year-olds. Lol. I wanted to go to the doctor and asked the supervising teachers if I could leave, but was told flat no. I had to stay or be written up, which would have affected my grade. So, I stayed the rest of the day with my hand wrapped in a towel. Got home and my brother took me to the town ER. It took them 2 hours to painstakingly pick all the gravel and grit out of my hand and scrub the dirt out. Showed up the next day with my hand in a soft cast and my supervising teacher snidely said, "Oh, going for the dramatic effect, are we?" I glared at her and said no. The ER doctor wrapped my hand after spending hours there whilst he picked crap out of my hand. The look on her face was priceless. And yes, I went to the director and told her what happened. The teacher herself got written up. I don't get why more places don't have a default of go to the doctor without it being a big event. Or take a half hour to use the first aid kit and fill out a form. My wife has to bring any injured employee to the ER no matter how minor as part of company policy and do a drug test. All it really does is discourage people from reporting injuries because they don't want to waste 5 hours for a cut or twisted ankle. I'd how the HR people tricked the production supervisors into being the ones to escort the employees in the hospital, but I commend and hate them. Well, alternative theory is, this policy is doing exactly what it was enacted for, reducing workers' compensation claims. A twisted ankle at work is still payable under WC insurance, and that costs the company. I got chicken pox while in college also. The looking hideous part is absolutely true. Unfortunately for me, the school and my dorm master took notice and basically quarantined me in my room until at least the infectious phase was past. It took a while for all the spots and scars to disappear/heal. Sucky thing was no matter what appeal I made, my math lecturer wouldn't give me a pass on medical grounds, so I entered engineering a year late. I seriously think it changed my career path drastically. I spent my catch-up year taking physics and astronomy and math, then later quit engineering and took astronomy. So much happier thanks to chickenpox. Well, that took an unexpected and really happy turn. Congrats on finding your calling. Thank you. Wasn't my eventual calling, but I do hope to take it up again later. These sorts of malicious compliance are among my favorite. I can see why you still find this funny. Including paying a visit to the lady who left me hanging. Hope you insisted on shaking her hand, or giving her a peck on both cheeks, if that's the custom where you live. Or giving her a peck on both cheeks even if it isn't the custom where you live. Just lick her right up the middle of her stupid face. Own it. After about 15 years into my banking career, I took a step back from management to be home more with my young children. I stepped into a job as a floater, and because of my experience I could be asked to be teller, a CSR, or even a manger to cover vacations and such. Important, due to the structure of supervising floaters, my new supervisor was pretty much my equal, meaning she had very little authority over me. She was the typical witch manager. She would do anything to wield her power. I had a very clean attendance record, as well as other performance accolades. I got pink eye from one of my kids and was supposed to work as a teller that day. I weeping infection, exposing customers, touching their money and documents. If you've ever had pink eye, it's not only uncomfortable, but highly contagious. especially when working with the public. I called and said I'd be happy to come to work, but don't think that it is prudent for me to be a teller. She was also teller-trained, who could have easily switched responsibilities for the day. She said she'd write me up if I didn't come in as a teller, so I did. Every single customer looked at my seeping eyes and said, "You shouldn't be here. Not only does it look like you are in pain, but you look contagious," which I was. She got put in her place after being called out for her power move. It sucked to go through, but she got her due. I was a proctor for an exam and one of the students showed up with pink eye. I have never had to force a student to take a makeup exam, but I was not letting them into the room with 400 plus tightly packed people. Pink eye ain't no joke.